Welcome everyone. My name is Vanzana. I'm the creator of Vanzana Light Healing, and I'm here today with my friend Pierre Dubois, who is a spiritual healer, an ascension teacher, and a really beautiful star brother of mine. We know each other for a really long time.
Yes.
I will tell you a little bit about him in a moment, but I just wanted to say welcome to this new platform. You know, because we're already pretty much in the fifth dimension, right? We're embodying the spirit of co-creation and collaboration, unity and community. And so I thought, well, you know, instead of every week, you know, people just tuning into my work, my transmissions and channelings, let's all get together and really support each other and back each other, bless each other, because everyone in the world on this planet has a different gift, different ability, a different way of transmitting the high frequencies. And we need to get together in this spirit of oneness, in the circle of light. So I'm really happy that Pierre said yes when I asked him to appear on my first episode on the New Earth Ascension One Network. And by the way, the name of my telesummit show that that came through to me is very similar, but it's called a New Earth Ascension Show. So there's no New Earth One Network, but we are just coincidentally on the New Earth One Network. So there are no accidents, and this is a really crucial period of our evolution, and this is a highly time-sensitive timeline, transitional, transformational timeline. But we also know that wherever we place our energy, you know, and our attention, that is what we're going to vibrationally attract in our reality. So some people say this is, you know, we're still in 3D. There's still fear, there's still density, but then other people say, no, we're, you know, those days are gone. But what I see, and I want Pierre, I mean, the reason I invited Pierre, because he's an expert on ascension, in my opinion, and I trust him, and he has integrity, and he is the most sincere person I know, who really walks his talk and talks his walk. And that's very important too. And as egoless as they come. And I like to surround myself with people like this in my midst. So anyways, some people are saying the timelines are splitting. I believe the term is bifurcation. And so depending where what your beliefs are and the energy that you are embodying in your light body, that's what you are going to experience, right? So, but other people say, no, there's no more karma, there's no 3D. So this is a question that we're going to ask today, my beautiful guest. But before we do, we'll give you a little more time to think about your answer. I want to just read you guys a little bit about Pierre. So, first of all, Pierre's website is iammonad.com. And Pierre Richard Dubois, I didn't realize that was your middle name, very distinguished. He's a registered architect in New York State, and he holds 2 advanced degrees from Columbia University, very cool. Pierre has been on a life quest to satisfy his inner and intuitive knowing about consciousness, expanding technologies and wisdom forever. I'm going to add that on to your bio, forever and ever, for eternity. So Pierre is a life coach, a healer, ascension teacher, and a minister, and also the author of A Primer for Ascension. Pierre has traveled the world and studied many religions and belief systems. And he's found that we're all seeking the same thing, merging back with the uncreated source of all. So Pierre is also, and I can vouch for this, an insightful listener and counselor. And Pierre deeply aspires to share with others his wisdom and has helped countless people on their journey of healing, including myself when I was first starting out many, many years ago. Pierre. You really did open me up. So I just want to give you credit where credit is due. Expanding, healing, ascending, evolving. And he's been doing this for at least, I think it's more than 20 years, Pierre, but that's what your website says. Genuinely talented to explain with science the magic, practical magic, right, of the spiritual and the supernatural. He's been teaching ascension classes weekly in New York City. By the way, Pierre's in Manhattan, I'm in Brooklyn, so just know that we're really getting the brunt of this. Like, we are definitely in the hot seat, you know, in this hotbed, and things are really intense here. But it's okay, because we can recognize the blessings of it and still be grateful, you know, as we rise above it and get through it together, get through this timeline. So basically, Pierre is just a master of, you know, he wears many hats, and he's a master of many different modalities. He's a speaker, a workshop presenter. He also leads these lectures and workshops throughout the country on topics like Toward an Ascension Tomorrow, the power of forgiveness, claiming your personal powers, psychic self-defense, which we can all definitely use, especially at this time, remembering past lives, and DNA reconstruction, healing the patriarchy. I like that one, Pierre. And the gifts of the divine masculine, or balancing the divine masculine with the divine feminine, very important. And so he's also pioneered the groundbreaking celestial light healing method. And although he specializes in healing the healers, his services and teachings are accessible and available to all truth seekers who are serious, committed, all in about their self-realization. And this is a time of self-realization, revelation, and self-examination, right? So this is like we're all performing a life review while we are embodied. So now is your opportunity to take advantage of this pause and reset and really realign with the divine in magical and beautiful, miraculous ways, I might add. So thank you.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you so much. Thank you for the beautiful intro. And you're right, we've been friends for a long time. And I'm not talking just on Earth. We're still, you know, beings, and we're here posted in a very hot zone, as you said, to try to respond. It's funny because I have a choice. I have a retreat center in the Catskill that you've been to. I had the choice to go there and spend this entire quarantine time there. And people from there are asking me, why aren't you not there? I don't understand. I said, because I'm posted here and because somebody has to hold the light. And I feel very committed to this.
Beautiful.
You started out by asking about the time zone and the bifurcation and everything else. And from my channeling and my understanding, it is not just two timelines. There are multiple parallel realities that are all occupying the same space. To say that one of them has completely taken over is to not be factual. It would mean if you were already in 5D, there would be no fear around us. So to my understanding, it's because what I call the divergence, because it's not bifurcation, it's divergence of multiple parallel realities, have not occurred yet. It is, to explain it in a very simple way, my guides, the Galactic Region Council, every year have always come to me to help me understand what's going to happen for the next 12 months or a few years. And they've been talking for many years about what they call the crossing of the Galactic Equator. To explain it simply, the Milky Way Galaxy is a flat galaxy that's like a pizza pie. It has a thickness of 100 light year across, but there are no celestial bodies above or below. It's not a spherical galaxy. And because of this, we are in the outer skirt of it, and we don't face the center. And we are blocked from the light of the core. And we rotate around the core for what they call a galactic year, which is 250 million years. However, we also wobble in the course of the rotation 8 times up and down. So we pass the cross up and down, and that takes 31 million years to happen. We're about to crest above, and when we crest above, the light of the core hits us directly. This is what they call the Galactic Equator, and it's a cosmic event that happens once every 31 million years. This is going to be the 7th crossing from this one galactic year. So background.
Wow.
When this happens, there is immediately ascension en masse. People who are crossing this planet, the moment it happened, there is gigantic opportunity to change and transform miraculously. Now, here's the thing, that crossing, the light of that crossing is truth, authenticity, and transparency. They've been saying this to me for 6 years. This is why you have all the Me Too movement and all the stuff where everybody that had dirty secrets. I remember one time, you will appreciate this one, Donna. I had a client that came to me, a man that was feeling guilty because he was cheating on his wife. So he asked me how to process this and how to do this. And I looked at him, I said, you want an honest answer? He said, yes. I said, okay, you should confess because you're gonna get caught. And it's better for you to control the process and do it on your term rather than be caught and have it happen in the wrong way. I never heard from you again, but I was giving you an honest answer.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
You know, and so for me as a healer, when, and there have been many prophecies that were made about this galactic equator crossing, that the Mayan have talked about this. They call it the 3 days of darkness. And that is when the crossing happens, there's going to be 3 days where the sun is going to disappear. And then when the sun returns, and by the way, when this happened, they also said that most of the people on the earth will not be able to withstand the fear that we will have. And once the sun returns, the prophecy said very clearly, we are not sure if it's going to be the same sun. My guy, the Galactic Equator, the Galactic Region Council, have been saying we are going to be relocated to a parallel reality that's 4,429 light years away. Wow. Literally, think of an accordion. Everything is flat, and when that crossing happens, it opens up, and every piece moves somewhere else. And it's not that the people who are left behind, let's say someone is in victim mode, and they see themselves as victim. And what drives where you go? Your emotions.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to learn the tools of emotional intelligence.
That's right. That's right. And because the energy body is the emotional body. So if you're in fear, if you're in whatever emotion, your anger, you're in rage, whatever it is, you will be connected. Because when the light scans us, it's going to be an analysis of not what you think you are in your head. We're all masters of self-deceit. We can delude ourselves and have blind spot and not know it. Mm-hmm. But it's going to scan you and determine emotionally what occupies most of your energy body. And it will match you to a reality, to that reality. It's kind of scary in a way.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah. Because we're all, and this is one of the things in my Ascension class I keep telling my students all the time. The key to it is the emotional intelligence. You have to keep asking yourself, keep querying yourself. In the morning, I ask all my students to do this simple query. Sit down, take 12 deep breaths, And once you're done, and shouldn't take no more than 10 minutes. And everybody has 10 minutes. Sit down and be very quiet. And right now with the quarantine, we all have 10 minutes.
We have a lot more than 10 minutes.
Okay. So,
yeah, great.
So sit down and ask yourself, what am I lying to myself about? What am I not seeing? And what am I blinded to? And wait for an answer each time. Now, at first, you may not immediately get an answer. It might be a sensation or a feeling or a discomfort of some kind. But if you keep doing it every day on a continual basis, you're going to get a hit. Something is going to show up. And the sensation that it gives you is that at the moment, you see a delusion or a false belief, and then you see immediately how the truth, who you really are. You see your true light body. You see yourself expanded in the universe as something completely different. And for most people, that's so scary that they return back to the old self. They collapse back and they immediately forget what they saw.
Right. So it feels like the truth of this process, this somatic experience in the body, the mind-body connection, is really about taking your time, gently expanding, and then maybe pulling back a little bit when you sense some type of uncomfortability, and then allowing yourself to just let go and just expand again. And then, you know, when you need to come back a little bit, you can. So it's kind of like a titration with expansion and contraction, but in your own time, at your own pace. And I feel like that would be more effective than just like really going out on a limb and fearing that you might not come back, or, you know, all in one piece, or even the same as you were when you left. So yeah, this is fascinating. And I would love to ask you, since first of all, I love your videos. By the way, Pierre has a really important, in my opinion anyway, my interesting point of view is always interesting, right? But it's this Wisdom Council community, conscious community. It's on Facebook. So I just wanted to kind of let everybody know that please join the Wisdom Council, because everyone's voices are needed, you know, and we especially need to be the voice for those that do not have a voice, that have lost their voice, or are, you know, in the vulnerable population where they are not allowed to speak, or for whatever reason they are disempowered to speak, or they don't feel that they have anything important to say. Everybody has something important to say that's valuable. But the Wisdom Council is great so that, you know, it gives people the opportunity to discuss this ascension process, so it doesn't have to feel so scary, right? Or so that people won't have to feel unnecessarily out of control. Because the truth is, we never really, I mean, control is kind of like an illusion, right? We're never really in control anyway of everything, but we are in control of how we choose to respond to external events like this pandemic. Or as somebody said earlier, the panic-demic. You know, we don't want to allow ourselves to feel trapped or limited by the vibration of fear. So how would you recommend sort of like still allowing whatever you're feeling, because we know in order to heal, we must allow those feelings, even whether they're easy or difficult. But how would you recommend that people still acknowledge and honor whatever they're feeling, but also rise above it and move beyond it, so that they're not pulled down by the gravity of fear?
Okay, it's a great question, and thank you for asking this, because, and to ignore this would be to ignore the pink elephant in the room. We all are going through this. There's 3.5 million people around the planet that are in lockdown of some kind, and because of the loss of freedom, the loss of income, the loss of friends and family members, and the loss of all of these things, the core emotion that's being triggered, and by the way, 5 years earlier, I had channeled that this was coming. And when I channeled it, the core emotion that I picked up is what everyone is experiencing now. That loss is triggering grief.
Yes.
Deep grief. And
Yes.
there are multiple stages to grief. Of course, you have the denial, like I posted something about grief recently, and spiritual friend, from a long time ago, from over 10 years ago, I'm not grieving. I'm not. Stage number one, denial.
Can I add something? Spiritual bypass.
Yeah, exactly.
Or somebody referred to this as a bliss bypass.
Yes.
Because that's just like tricking your nervous system.
Yes.
And it's disassociation, and which is the same as collapsing and shutting down.
Exactly.
Your vagus nerve.
That's right. That's right.
So,
and I was like, how can you be compatible? You call yourself a planetary leader and ascended master. Half of the people of the planet are grieving, and you're telling me you feel nothing?
Yeah. I've come across that too. I had, somebody I was talking to, we just, kind of like a exploration session. She looked at my website and she wanted to have a session, and we started talking. So the first thing I asked her after I, said hello, of course I always am concerned about everyone, equally.
Yes.
So I asked, well, how are you managing during this really unthinkable, surreal timeline? We never experienced anything like this in the history of our planet, anything this big globally like this. And she said, oh, what do you mean? I'm fine. I'm happy.
Wow.
And I was like, great. And that's all I said. I left it at that. Because listen, everyone has the right to have their own experience. And if this was getting her through it, where denial was part of it, or maybe, there are a lot of light workers, right, Pierre, that are just focusing on only what is going to happen post-pandemic timeline, but they're not really addressing the entire picture. And that's why I love talking to you, because you're looking at the entire picture from the space of neutrality and non-judgment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, because that's exactly, because I see, the way I'm seeing this is an opportunity to grow. This is all it is. Charles Darwin, who terrorized about the theory of evolution, said a couple of things that were right. I don't agree about other things. I don't think that, for example, he said that the only way for a species to evolve, grow, and emancipate into something else and mutate is for them to experience a mass extinction event. And one would say that the COVID-19 experience, the pandemic, is a potential for a mass extinction event. Now, I don't agree that's the only way. That's where I defer with him, because a lot of other ascended masters have evolved without having this experience. It's just that there is a cosmic clock ticking for a 31 million year crossing of the galactic equator, and the galactic masters are trying to accelerate because we are not where we're supposed to be, and they're trying to kickstart things by by giving us an experience, so that the experience can open us up. So what does this pandemic does to all of us? It generates fear, because we suddenly do not have control. What you thought was immutable, like your work, your ability to earn a living, your job, if you're a shopkeeper, you have a brick and mortar business, not like us, we're working online. All of a sudden, everything just disappears, and you have no safety net. And it generates a tremendous amount of fear, which is fight or flight reptilian brain.
Yes.
But the higher emotions, like compassion, empathy, mercy, wisdom, and all of these higher emotions do not exist in the reptilian brain.
Right.
They exist in the higher part of our brain. And for us to access it, we have to let go of our response of fight or flight.
Yes. I always say we have to empty ourselves to refill or refuel ourselves, to fill up our tank of galactic gasoline, or this creative fuel, energy and life force energy, but vitality and all of that. So yeah, how do you suggest that people access this our higher brain?
So the way, and first of all, the grief goes in stages. So you can't bypass the grief, as we discussed. So you have to go to the, and it may be, and it's not necessarily linear. For example, if you read it everywhere, it says denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and then acceptance. Well, I know people that jumps right into the bargaining. I know that people who respond by being angry. So it's not linear, but you have to hit all of these stages to get to the acceptance. And typically when you get to the acceptance, you begin to realize this is an act of God and I cannot control this. And you go into surrender and you release it. And so my recommendation, do the universal breath, which is to take a breath from the core of the earth, from the center of Gaia, and let this energy move through you. And as it passes through you, wherever the grief was, the lack of control, move it outside of your head. And when it gets outside of your head, exhale completely. And
I already feel the shift just in that 10-second window.
Yes. And the moment that happened, you're in source. Yes. I'll tell you, I watch a lot of Kung Fu movies. This is my little secret.
That's awesome.
So I watch a lot of Tai Chi movies and all that. And so I was watching this movie and I was trying to find a way to explain to my students this very concept. And there was an older Tai Chi master that was playing Chinese checkers with a younger swordsman. And the younger swordsman says, when I saw what you were doing around the imperial court, I dare not show myself. You have all this power. And then the older master was drinking a cup of tea. He says, power? I don't have any power. And he says the cup. He says, see this cup? And he emptied it out. He said, my heart is more open than you. When you empty yourself out and you open the cup, he said, the cup is empty. You become empty. And the universe, the chi comes from outside within. He said, it's not my power. It is borrowed. Light bulb. Everywhere. I was so shocked. I rewind. Awesome. I went back again. I rewind. I'm like, what did he say? What did he say? The bottom line, whatever your fear is, whatever emotion negative that you can't process, you realize is bigger than you. You do this breath and you surrender completely. And to the degree that you're empty, it's to the degree that the universe will bring you the exact opposite frequency to repair you and to perpetually renew you. And when you feel this goodness coming in, you inhale it in and you bring it back into your body. Now,
so important because people, especially when the fight, fear, flight, freeze program in the limbic system, the reptilian survival brain mechanism is running and overwhelming our emotional nervous system, it's really hard to take those deep, full breaths because we tend to shallow breathe anyway, you know, when we're not really breathing in our hara and our bellies and our lower emotional centers and bodies. So this is a great exercise. Maybe we actually should take a moment and just do this, walk people through this exercise so that they could also watch the replay and download it, and so they have a tool for self-care at home. What do you think about that? How does it feel?
We can do about three or four of these breaths.
Yes.
Because the way you do it is that I can guide people right now to it. If you're ready, I could do it.
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up that I was just on a somatic healing call with a very famous psychologist, a somatic trauma specialist named Peter Levine. And he has these practices of self-regulation, for self-soothing, or the self-embrace, self-hug. just like this, you know, even just holding yourself, you know, and that actually is good for panic and anxiety. And I just learned a new sacred sound syllable besides the ah, like ah, ah, is voo, V-O-O-O-H, but then the H is silent. So even just, you know, like bringing up all the energy, allowing it to rise up, right, from bottom up, all the way up, and then you could even extend or overextend your shoulders, and then like just let it down, and that also anchors the light above you and brings you back into your body and grounds you here back into your body, because so many of us are like so even afraid to be in a body because we're afraid we're going to get the corona if we're in our body. So this will allow you to feel safe in your body. But the voo sound, voo, somehow the vibration of that signature, that energy, it sends out a message in your field and, you know, universally, that really sort of helps you to function in a way where you feel like more in control of your emotions. So yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. This will be great. I love it.
All right. Take a very deep and slow breath. Close your eyes. And imagine for a moment that your lungs are like a giant tube that extends into the very core of Mother Gaia and equally extends past your shoulders and go all the way out into Source. Take a very deep breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through this column, passing through the bottom of your feet and dislodging in you all fears, all panic of the coronavirus. And exhale all of it outside of your head. Completely, thoroughly. Surrender, let go. Allow the healing and the repairs of infinity times infinity to embrace you. As you inhale in now a cascade of endless repairs and instantaneous renewal. Bring this energy into your body and ground it into the core of the earth. Inhale again from the core of the earth as this breath moves through the bottom of your feet, passing through you. Exhale and release all of your fears outside of your head. Let go of all agitations, concerns, or fears. Surrender completely. It is not your responsibility to fix, do, or repair anything. Allow a cascade of benevolence, of goodness, of instantaneous blessings and divine grace to touch you. Inhale all of this and let it quench and drench every part of your physical body. And let it ground into the core of the earth. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, dislodging all residual fears, panic, related to the coronavirus collective experience and release all of it as you exhale outside of your head, surrendering all of it into source. Let go. Empty yourself out completely. And let the scalar invert of those frequencies let an infinite number of potential solutions set to envelop you. And let all this goodness ground into your body. And let it drop into the very core of the earth. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gift and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gift and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath, and whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
I'm already releasing in the form of a yawn. It just feels so good to stretch and just release all of that baggage, all of that heaviness and density, and just step out and away from that 3D matrix of chaos and density and anxiety, intensity, all of that. So thank you for this gift, the gift of you. I accept this gift, I accept this blessing, and I receive it with gratitude. Oh, so beautiful. This is the thing that we're not taught on this earth, in this timeline, is how to receive, or even feeling worthy or deserving, that we even have a right to receive blessings. And this is where a lot of us are being triggered, who were maybe brought up by narcissistic or emotionally immature, absent, neglectful, or even distracted parents, abusive, who are wounded themselves. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because this is obviously where this coronavirus is an invisible threat. So we're always in that fight, fear, and flight state. The survival mechanism is always like sort of turned on the past few months at least. And it's also, in many cases, for many of us, making us feel emotionally unsafe. And it's really re-triggering the old wounds that maybe were never resolved or processed at all. Or maybe we just put it aside because it was just too painful to deal with or to work through. Maybe we didn't have the tools or the support system in place. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure.
In your experience?
Sure. This is why I said initially when we started talking about the coronavirus that this is a great gift. I am not a victim, because what this is doing to me is an opportunity, because I am now in quarantine. It's a forced meditation. It's a retreat. Yes. And I'm blessed. I'm not part of the. I keep saying this. I feel so blessed and so privileged. I'm not part of an essential worker team that I have to go outside. And so I feel very blessed because of this. And if I am that blessed, I am, whatever the experience, the fight or flight experience is triggering for me, personally for me, what kind of fear is it triggering for me? This is one of the questions I ask all my clients and my students to do. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of dying. Am I afraid of getting infected? I'm afraid of, and whatever that fear is, that's where you should be focusing on. Don't run away from the fear, but move toward the discomfort. The discomfort is your teacher. And if you can lean on the discomfort, it will teach you something about yourself. So if you had these old wounds that are still there, that were shelved because you didn't have the tool set, now is the moment for you to step into it. And what happened if you do the query that I asked, that I talked about before, the 3 questions, if you ask these questions, they're going to show up. Absolutely. And when they show up, the way it is for me is that when it shows up, I see the false belief and then I see the opposite. Or if the opposite, because sometimes it's so big emotionally for me, I feel overwhelmed. If the opposite doesn't show, I see it and I ask, what am I supposed to do with this? How do I manage this? And I wait for an answer and the opposite shows up. And when the opposite shows up, I know I have to deconstruct this and I have to move into this new thing.
And that's what we're all being called upon to do, is to deconstruct the fear.
Yes. Yes.
But also to befriend the shadows,
yes,
of the critic, the judge, the perfectionist, the self-saboteur, all of those parts of us that were hidden. And now everything is rising to the top.
That's right. Because this is a core fear about survival. So all of these things that were hidden, again, truth, authenticity, and transparency. Whatever was hidden inside of you, it's going to show up. You don't have a choice. We pray. The funny thing is that all of us, like workers, we've prayed for the new earth. We prayed for this transition.
And now that it's here.
This is the first domino for it. A first domino fell. The way they describe it, they said a series of dominoes will keep hitting each other. It's going to get worse. There are more events that are interrelated, financial, food shortage, all kinds of things that are going to happen that are all interrelated. But all of it will lead to the deconstruction of a 3D paradigm that is highly toxic and unsustainable for the new earth.
Yes. And everything has already been here. All of these circumstances were just under wraps. They were buried unconsciously. It was all here. The corruption, you know, the separation, even the isolation, right? But now we're actually being forced to pause and reset it, but also to envision something more authentic showing up for us, that we are the masters. We're our own inner masters, teachers, guides, and guardians. We are our own spiritual caretakers of our body vessels, of the new 5D light body. But I think really it's important, and this is why I love having you here today, is to really look at what's happening from a quantum, broader, higher perspective as the witness, not as the judge, but as the witness, knowing that we too will get through this, that this too shall pass, and that it's not always going to be this way. And we can, instead of concluding or deciding like we know it's going to happen, or this world is doomed, and walking around in that doom and gloom, which actually makes everything worse and inflames everything, you know, and magnifies what we're experiencing in a way that's unmanageable. We can ask more open-ended questions like, how can this get better? Or who would I be? Or what would I be like? Who would I be? Imagine, you know, that we're a post-pandemic. We've gotten through this, right? A year from now. Who would I be if I didn't have these thoughts, these beliefs? You know, how would I feel? And then just imagine yourself just there as if it was already happening now.
Here's the beautiful thing. It's already here. Now, sometimes I think I'm on a sine wave, or I'm on some sort of the ocean, and there are gigantic waves. There are days for days. I am so ecstatically embraced by euphoria. That's the best. I don't have a term for this because this happiness is beyond anything I can explain. I've never experienced anything that was that intense, where I am surrounded by awe and euphoria. And every part of my consciousness, my body knows that everything is perfect the way it is.
Yeah.
And then there are other days where I dip down and I go to a valley where all of a sudden my old issues are coming up. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back up again. So this is so because we exist, many of us exist in multiple group bodies. So we have old beliefs where we were victimized, where we were angry, or where we were triggered by trauma, and etc. So we belong to the parallel realities that has these issues connected to them. Yet at the same time, we also have our foothold, because with all the light work we've done for all these years and all the emotional intelligence we've done, into other realities as well. So we're being pulled to and fro. Yes. Back and forth, and we're navigating, and we have to finally get ourselves to a point where we default completely into the vibration of the new earth.
Yes, that's the acceptance and the grief process, the collective grief process.
Right.
And many people are in denial that so many lives are, that people are leaving the planet. This is a mass exodus.
Yes.
And a lot of people, I think many people feel just safer, and I'm not faulting them or blaming them, but they just feel safer kind of pretending that it's not true and it's not real and the numbers are fudged. That's one thing I want to get into. The other thing, so it's important to not get swept away in the dirt and the debris, and to be pulled down by this gravity force of negativity in the collective, because we're all traumatized in one form or another to different levels and degrees based on your past history, based on your genetics, based on your birth parents, how available they were to how safe you felt growing up. Did you feel protected? Did you feel safe by them? Or did you feel vulnerable? This is really, really bringing up a lot. That's why it's so important to not grieve alone, to have a guide, a friend, a therapist, a healer, a teacher, just someone that you trust, that you feel safe with, that you can really learn to practice the self-inquiry techniques, and to feel safe, like naming and meeting whatever feelings or beliefs or thoughts are coming up for you. Like, hey, you know what? I do sometimes have this thought that I'm afraid that something's going to happen to me every time I hear a siren or an ambulance going by, right? And then by you just venting and releasing that, you've already cleared away so many lifetimes of the trauma that's still in your cellular memory when you may have died during an epidemic, or somebody you loved, that you lost that person, and all of a sudden you're cleared of that, because it's really a burden to hold on to the feelings that you don't even want to admit to yourself that keep you up at night. So we want to deburden you, declutter you from all of that waste, because that's energy that you could use to live an authentic life based on truth, transparency, authenticity. I want to ask you two things before we close today. One thing is, for empaths like you and I, or just for people, let's use the word energy sensitive, super hypervigilant, hyper aware, multidimensionally aware individuals, open-hearted people who even know what's happening in other planets, right? We can sense, even when we're sleeping, we have our antenna up, right? Is there anything else you would recommend that people can practice as a self-care ritual, themselves at home? Any kind of exercise or process that we didn't discuss yet that really maybe has helped you? Because I know we're both empaths, and I know that it really can be hard for us to navigate, when we know how many lives are being lost, when we know the truth of what's actually happening behind the scenes.
Yes. One of the things that I do initially, my experience was slightly different than everybody else because I had foresawn this and I was warned about this at least 3 times. It probably was more than that, but at least in 3 channeling that I wrote down, they were there. A pandemic that has the potential, the coming to the surface of pathogen plural that has the potential to create a massive human die-off. And I knew this the moment I began to see what was happening in Wuhan. I knew. And I panicked because I was not ready. Because I have this property in the Catskills, this retreat center. I was tasked to create a village, an ascended village. And I don't have the finances. The village is not ready. I panicked. And because of this, and one of the things I try to do as well as a light worker, my instinct, and I keep telling my student not to do this, but I did it anyway, which was that I went in against this energy and tried to block it. And it felt like I was standing, the vision I had, I was on a beach alone and there was a gigantic tsunami that was coming and I was trying to stop it like I was Gandalf. I felt literally every cell in my body shattered.
Wow.
It was not a fun feeling. It was not fun. I broke into a million pieces. And then I had to pull myself together and I had to say to myself, what is at the root cause of your fear? What are you really afraid of? And you want to know something, Vandana? I was not afraid for me. I was afraid for my community. That was the root cause. I was worried about my people. Where are they going to go? And I had to ask myself, can you really control the life or the death of your community? And the answer was no. And therefore, if you can't control it, why are you holding on so tight to the rein? Let go. Let go, and surrender, let go.
Yes.
And that was extremely healing for me. And at that moment, what I realized as well is that what I was picking up, and this happened with the first time that I channeled this, because the words were coming in as a paragraph, but simultaneously I was emotionally picking up major grief. I was empathically feeling the pain and the suffering that was going to happen because there was no time and space. I was already picking it up. And because I was picking it up, one of the things that I keep telling my students all the time, particularly people who are empath, when you're feeling emotion and you're overwhelmed by it, the first thing you need to ask, instead of accepting it and say, I am feeling grief, ask yourself, I am feeling something. Is this coming from me? Or is it from the outside?
Beautiful. I ask the same question to my clients and students. Is this mine or somebody else's?
Yes.
Does this belong to me or is this someone else's or something else's?
Yes.
That belongs to another world, another dimension, another person or group?
Yep. And the moment
most of the time it's not ours.
Yeah, and the moment I saw all of that grief was not mine.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'm letting it go. Move, get out of the way. It's not mine. It's not my responsibility to change it. It's not mine.
Exactly. So, so just to reiterate, what was the last? So, what is your takeaway about the best medicine to repair ancestral, generational, gestational in the womb, or genetically passed on trauma for the deep feelers, the clairsentient empaths?
Okay, so we would have to do a whole thing on empath alone, okay? Because it's quite a lot to unpack. You asked a very big question, it's quite a lot to unpack.
Of course, that's why I'm going to have you back on the show again.
Yes.
But for now, maybe just one tidbit that people can take a little taste or
Yes,
bite
yes,
into
yes,
for
yes,
now.
yes.
Yeah.
One of the thing that I think, okay, very quick. For most of us who are empath, we are empathing, and some of us think of it as a curse. Okay, because we can control when it happened, how it happened, and we're constantly feeling soiled by negative energy that seems to be encroaching in our own environment. And really, I've called this the drama of the empath because it's not necessarily true. In my personal experience and practice, most people who are empath to a degree or another are scanning unconsciously. They don't know that they're doing it. And a lot of time it's because in past life they were killed for their abilities, and their survival mechanism was to scan for danger.
And even in this lifetime,
Yes.
in this incarnation, in our childhood,
Yes.
if we were brought up by unsafe parents,
Yes.
or family members, or we had some childhood trauma, we have to do this as a defense mechanism to survive.
To survive.
So very good.
And so the best way to describe this, and I'm going to use a very simple and raw analogy, what the empath is really doing, think of yourself as a man, even if you're a woman, it's seeing a woman walking down the street and then putting your hand underneath their skirt to feel their energy. And the person's natural defense is to turn around and slap you. And the slap is always interpreted as an attack. I didn't do anything. And it's being done unconsciously. It's very intense. So there is an ownership that the empath has to do in terms of realize more than 50% of the time I'm initiating this. This happened to me very young, and I didn't know I was doing this. Like I would get in the subway as a young man going to work, and I'm strapped hanging, and I'm looking around, and I know the details of everyone's life.
I know, me too.
Okay.
And then we could read other people's minds, their thoughts,
worse,
their histories, and it's really can be intense if you don't know how to manage this empathy.
And worse than that is that most of the time when you are encroaching in their space, they know because they turn around and they look at you.
Yeah, they feel it. They feel it. Yes.
You're literally, it's a violation.
Yes.
You're invading them and you're violating them. So the idea is to have proper boundaries.
Bingo.
And the way I do this, a very simple way, I use the method of the kahunas of Hawaii and the Ho'oponopono.
Beautiful. Me too.
So what I do is that as I look and I'm looking around and I'm going to scanning mode without knowing, I did this as an exercise. Like every time I go to work, I would, everything that my eyes fall on, I would silently repeat the Ho'oponopono, please forgive me, I love you, and I let go, like it was saying the rosary. Non-stop. For my 15-minute walk to my office. Please forgive me, I love you, and I let go. To everything that I saw, the sun, the street lights, the police officer, everyone walking around me, this one. Because you don't realize how many times you're judging and the moment I do this, I disconnected. And I became neutral because I was sending unconditional love.
You're detaching with love from a neutral space, right? Yeah. Not an invasive, but a non-invasive, respectful space of grace.
Of grace. And as I did this, it suddenly, it changes the whole thing for me. What happened to me, and I did this for as long as I could for the day. When I got to my office, I started doing it. I would lose track. In the afternoon, I would start again and all that. After 4 days of doing this, on the 5th day, I felt so much love inside of me, I couldn't contain myself. I walked outside of my office. I went next door to the bookkeeper. I said, Miss Carol, come here, come here. I grabbed her and I hugged her. And I said, God, I love you. And I hugged everybody in my office that day.
I remember hearing this story like years ago from you, and I love it, and I never forgot this story. It really left a very positive impression in my psyche. I mean, that's beautiful. So yes, Ho'oponopono.
It didn't not only open my heart, but it gave me proper boundaries.
Yes.
It actually contained my boundaries. It allowed me not to go because one of the reasons why you're doing the survival mechanism of scanning, it's because you're trying to find a safe place and good energy.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So while doing this, you're constantly invading other people's space. Is this person safe? Is that one safe? That's one. And as you do this, people will react to you. It's not because they're unsafe, but because they feel invaded. They're gonna react to you violently, back psychically. And then this is dirty, and you constantly have to cleanse yourself and dust the drum, and yet you're not conscious you're doing this.
So it's respectful boundaries. That's really the key.
The first step, recognize that you're over 50% responsible for this. The second part is to then do the Ho'oponopono to everything that you see, every thought, every idea that's going to outside of you as you interact with other people. And the moment you do this, and third thing, when an energy seems to be coming from you to you, ask yourself, is this coming from me or is it from the outside?
Yes. So we are our own teacher and guru and divine mother and father. So we have to really reparent ourselves, our inner child that still feels unsafe in the world, that's still trying to feel like okay, especially when we're around other people. So Ho'oponopono, thank you. I'm sorry. I love you, forgive me, I forgive myself, and I let go. The I let go is an essential part of this mantra, this forgiveness prayer, and forgiving myself. And I forgive myself too. In other words, I'm not going to blame myself anymore. It's not my fault. Whatever happened in the past, I'm not responsible. And that already in itself, that recognition, that truth really can shift everything for you. You can say it even 100 times until the charge or the trigger subsides gradually. And this is a great takeaway. Thank you so much for that. The last thing really quickly, I love the video that you sent out. I believe it was also on Facebook on your Wisdom Council group. Yep. About the way you phrased the title of this video was perfect. My pandemic experience. So you weren't basically, you didn't have an agenda, which I really enjoyed and appreciated. It's like there are so many videos, so much misinformation out there where people have an agenda and they want you to come to their side, right? They want you to come to their corner and agree with them because it's all ego, you know, just like egos like out there, just like trying to still hang on to the illusion of control from the old matrix. So what I like about your video is you called it, you owned it. You said, this is my pandemic experience. Maybe it's not yours. And you're probably having a different experience. And I honor that. Just like namaste, I honor your experience. But please honor my experience too. This is not a joke. This is serious. And you went on to tell the public, whoever was lucky enough to watch your video, that we're in New York City. And this is real. This is not a joke. This is serious. And please, to take it seriously, wear a mask, wear gloves to protect yourself, to protect other people. You know, because we don't know, because so many people are testing positive, but they're asymptomatic. Right. So this is like that invisible adversary or the invisible threat. We don't know who has it, who doesn't have it. And we don't know ourselves. So there is mass confusion and chaos in the world naturally. But I just wanted you to share quickly, you know, of course, within the last few minutes that we have together, I feel like it's so important to be respectful and honoring like just because it's not touching you, just like with 911, 9/11, right? How people from other parts of the world, yes, they had compassion and yes, they felt so sorry, but if you're not in it, you don't really have the full experience. And still, there are a lot of people in the world that are in a bubble. And they're like, well, as long as it doesn't touch me, and yes, I feel sorry for you, I feel bad for you, but because it doesn't personally touch their lives, and I'm not wishing this on anybody else in the world, but I'm just saying to please like honor everyone's experience, but recognize that this is real.
Yes, thank you. The reason I did this video, it took me 2.5 weeks to think about it, to do it, because I was having a completely different experience, and I was watching all of these people posting on mass media these videos that were saying that it's a fake pandemic. And I just was having a completely different experience. I know 11 people who've died of COVID-19. I have friends who are nurses, 2 of them are on the mend right now from this pandemic experience. One of them worked in a ward with 200 people by herself with no PPE thing initially for the first month. She would go in there and she would still go every day and do this. She became infected. So I'm experiencing something completely, or for that matter, the experience that I talked about, me walking into the Rite Aid, trying to get some moisturizer for my skin. My left peripheral vision, there was a man that had collapsed from COVID-19. And I had to dash out. When I realized this, I'm like, the virus is all here, I gotta get out. Even though I had my glove, my mask, I'm like, I'm not exposing myself. It's not that serious. Skin cream, I can get it anytime. I'll use coconut oil. I don't need this.
Exactly.
So I walk right out. So I'm having a very different experience, and wherever you are, where you're privileged not to be having this as of yet, do not claim it's a fake pandemic. And in some of these videos, the numbers are fake. When they are telling you it's a 0.01%. And I've watched this video where this doctor out of California was claiming that it's all the wards in California, the hospital are empty, people are being turned away, it's fake, it's this, I'm not wearing a mask, we should have herd immunity and all of that. I understand the desire to put check on power and make sure that government officials are not abusing their authority. And it should happen. This is all civil right. But it is no excuse to diminish the experience that we're having. And more importantly, the sacrifice of all the healthcare workers that are dying in the front line. Because every time you say it's a fake pandemic, it's a slap in their face. And I found this to be very disrespectful of the experience that they are having, or that I am having for that matter. Because I have to mourn all of my friends that I will not see again. And there is no funeral. You just bury them.
So sorry, Pierre.
So there is nowhere for you to close. Do you understand? And so for me, it's important for people to realize that maybe you're having this experience now, but it doesn't mean a few months from now that invisible enemy is not going to be at your doorstep. So stop saying things that are untrue. In the case of this doctor with this documentary, he was saying at the time there was only 19,000 people that had died in New York, and he factored and multiplied that to the 19 million people that are completely in the state and said it's a 0.01% infection rate. This is not the way you calculate this. You calculate it by, there were 250,000 people infected at the time. You factor the two things together, 19,000 multiplied times by 250,000 times 100, you get 6.8% infection rate. The numbers are being fabricated. Moreover, they're saying it's like the influenza epidemic. Influenza that they calculated is for a 12-month period without a lockdown. That's one set of data. We are barely in 4 months. It's not even 4 months. We already have 80,000 people in the US alone that have died. Not the same. You're not comparing apple to apple. Be kind.
Yes.
Honor other
Thank
people's
you.
experience. Be kind. And stop reposting these things. And I understand why they're reposting, because when they see this, it's triggered their fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
And they are afraid for their business. They are afraid for their income. They want everything to reopen again. They are trying to go back to normal.
We never will.
It will never happen.
And that's a good thing. We don't want to go back to the old normal.
Yes, absolutely.
So be kind. This is the age, the golden age of Aquarius, of being kind to each other, of unity, of grace, community, conscious community, and to really practice spiritual discernment in a way that you never have before, in a way that you didn't even think you were ever capable of. So really discern and just trust your intuition, trust your gifts, your abilities, trust your instincts. And if something doesn't feel right, then you know it's not true. At least for you. It could be true for someone else, but maybe not for you. But if something does resonate with you and make you feel good and opens your heart, then go there. Just follow that energy. So it is about, a lot of people ask me, I don't even know how to trust my spiritual discernment. I don't even know what spirit, no one ever taught me. That's okay. That's why we're here. That's why the leaders, the guides, the healers are all here. This is why we're posted in New York City. I'm in Brooklyn. You're in Manhattan. I won't even begin to tell you about the atrocities that I saw on the boardwalk, with like half of the population not wearing masks, nobody distancing from each other, people walking right into each other, wearing bathing suits on their cell phone, not protected, that means other people are also not protected from you. No one is, you know what I mean? Everyone is in this together.
Yep.
So I just wanted to thank you for creating that video, because there is a lot of misinformation out there. So this is a time when we could start practicing the tools of spiritual discernment and loving kindness, as well as compassion for all, starting with ourselves. That's in right. This lockdown, right? So would you like to tell everyone, first of all, I know you have a free gift. Would you like to tell everyone about the free gift that whoever is listening now or on the replay?
Yes, I have channel live about, it's probably 2 weeks ago, this meditation, which is a process to remove your fear of the connected to the coronavirus. So
beautiful.
You will have access to that to help you move into the space of this euphoric space that I described. Once you let go of that, you just surrender the fear.
Awesome. So that is much needed. So thank you for offering this free gift, this bonus for people who are really struggling, feeling overcome or overwhelmed or just swept away by this collective anxiety that's now on the planet, and probably will remain even when, you know, they say, well, we're working on a cure or an antiviral medication or protocol, and let's not even get into the vaccination controversy, but we don't really know. Yes. This is the honest answer. Yep. No one knows for sure. Only God knows what's going to happen next.
I have to share with you very quickly, because I did research and there was information that came through the channel.
Great.
As soon as humanity begin to deconstruct the system of greed, of the bottomless pit that can never be filled, of lust and greed, in terms of financial system and so on and so forth. As soon as we figure this out and we begin to deconstruct it, the test will end. So what they are saying, that even if we were to be cunning enough to come up with antiviral drug or vaccine for this, we were able to do this, let's say by next year, as some people are talking about it, there would be another pathogen surfacing to teach us this lesson, because we have to learn it.
Exactly. That's why we've come, to learn the lessons, to graduate Earth School.
Yes.
So let's graduate Earth School together.
Hey.
So thank you, Pierre. What is your website, please,
It's,
so you could remind people?
It's www.iammoa. What am I saying? www.iammonad.com. Sorry.
I think you traveled into another vortex, another dimension just now. IamMonad.com.
Yes.
IamMonad.com.
Right.
And by the way, Pierre has a beautiful website with so many helpful resources to really empower you and to help you get through, especially this pandemic timeline. So I just want to say thank you again, Pierre. I had so much fun being with you, as always.
Thank you, thank you. I love you so much, okay?
I love you so much too.
We're going to hold the fort right here. We're going to hold beacons, me in Manhattan, you in Brooklyn. Let's do this.
We already are. Yeah. So thank you, Pierre, and blessings to you. Stay safe, be well, and everybody, namaste. Thank you so much for being here on the first episode of the New Ascension Show on the New Ascension One Network. Please be kind to yourselves and each other. Thank you. Bye for now.